The grand hall of the Galactic Concord hummed with a weight no structure had borne in centuries. Ancient stone and crystalline spires framed a vast chamber where hundreds of delegates from alien empires gathered. Their eyes, many multifaceted and alien, fixed coldly on the central dais where the human delegation stood. 3 figures cloaked in simple dark robes, their faces unreadable beneath high collars. The trial had been convened not over a crime but over fear. Humanity, the so-called Deathworlders, had become an enigma and a threat. Their homeworld, Earth, was a brutal crucible of survival, a planet so hostile it should have killed them off long ago. Instead, they had emerged, not only alive but dominant, pushing outward with an unstoppable expansion that terrified every species present. "We accuse the humans of reckless aggression," declared Ulzara, the crystalline envoy of the Zreth Dominion, her voice like shards of glass. "Their settlements spread without regard. Their weapons destroy without mercy. They threaten the balance of this galaxy." Murmurs rippled through the assembly, some fearful, others admiring the raw power humanity had wielded. But the humans remained still, silent. Their lead ambassador, a woman named Captain Illyra Sorn, stepped forward. Her voice was calm but carried an undeniable edge. "We do not conquer," Illyra said. "We endure, we adapt, we survive." Ulzara's multifaceted eyes narrowed. "Survival at the cost of all others. Your endurance has made you a danger." The chamber dimmed as holo recordings projected above, scenes played of human history. The bombing of cities on Earth during the Great Wars, the near annihilation of colonies in the Erebos system, desperate battles against alien raiders. The footage was brutal and unrelenting. It showed humanity's ruthlessness. But Illyra raised her hand, and the images shifted. "This is not conquest," she said, voice steady. "This is survival in its purest form. The galaxy we inhabit is not a garden but a furnace. Our origins are a death world, a planet that tested every fiber of our species. We do not seek to dominate but to endure, and in doing so, to create a new order where survival is guaranteed for all who choose to stand with us." The assembly buzzed with disbelief. How could such destruction be framed as anything but conquest? But Illyra's words planted a seed, a quiet challenge. Before the council could respond, alarms blared throughout the grand hall. Screens flickered, and a transmission from the Erebos system cut through the tense air. The live feed showed the human colony, once a beacon of hope and prosperity, engulfed in flames and plasma fire. The Concord fleet had struck with devastating precision. Entire cities were reduced to ash in moments. The delegates gasped, some recoiling. Silence fell. Then, unexpectedly, Illyra raised a hand to silence the murmurs. "That colony was a line in the sand," she said quietly. "We will not be judged by those who seek to erase us." A murmur of approval rose from the human delegation, but the other species' fear hardened into resolve. Ulzara's voice returned, sharper than before. "This is a warning, humans. Your survival will not come at the cost of the galaxy's peace." Illyra's gaze swept the hall. "We do not seek war," she replied, "but neither will we flee from it. You have made your choice." The trial recessed, but the echoes of the attack on Erebos rippled through the Concord. Whispers filled corridors and star systems alike. Was humanity broken, or were they waiting for something far more devastating? Behind closed doors, Illyra and her team gathered in the human envoy's chambers. The mood was somber but focused. A young officer, Lieutenant Jarek Voss, spoke first. "They expect retaliation," he said. "Why haven't we struck back yet?" Illyra met his eyes. "Because we don't fight by their rules. We don't conquer planets with fleets. We command galaxies by other means." The chamber darkened as a single message blinked on their holoscreen. "The galaxy will remember this day, not as the day humanity fell, but the day they showed they are not to be underestimated." Outside, the ancient court prepared for what would come next. The Deathworlders from Earth had made their first move, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Before the echoes of the trial faded, before the galaxy could fully grasp what had just transpired, the story shifted back in time, far back to the origin of the species that now faced judgment. Earth was not a gentle cradle. It was a furnace of survival, a planet of harsh extremes that hardened every creature lucky enough to cling to life. The sun scorched the deserts by day and chilled the plains to bone at night. Storms shredded forests and flooded cities. Predators lurked everywhere, some camouflage, some venomous, all relentless. From this crucible, humanity was born. The early humans were small and fragile, but fierce. Their first challenge was not alien invaders or cosmic forces, but the very ground beneath their feet. They learned quickly, when the world bites back, you adapt or perish. A montage of scenes unfolded. Children dodging swarms of venomous insects in dense jungle canopies. Villagers banding together to fight off packs of wild beasts under blood-red skies. Nomadic tribes racing across cracked plains, hunting for scarce water in the shadow of massive sandstorms. But it was not just nature that forged humanity. The story revealed the age of relentless internal struggle, the countless wars that tore civilizations apart again and again. Civilizations that rose, fell, and rose again from the ashes, each iteration harder and wiser. In the mid-21st century, the world had nearly destroyed itself. Nuclear firestorms scorched the Earth's surface, wiping out entire populations and cities. Yet from this near extinction, humanity emerged more united, more determined. Elira's voiceover, calm and steady, narrated the scenes. We come from a world where death is the norm, where every day is a battle to survive. The environment is our enemy. Our neighbors are often foes. We did not conquer because we wanted to. We conquered because we had no other choice. But the montage revealed more than survival. It showed ingenuity, human inventions born from necessity. Technologies that tamed lightning, filtered poison, rebuilt shattered ecosystems. Medical breakthroughs that turned wounds into scars, scars into legends. And perhaps most important, the relentless human spirit. The instinct to push forward, to refuse defeat, to make something better even when all odds were against them. Across the holographic scenes flickered a quote from an ancient Earth philosopher. In the face of oblivion, we build monuments of life. The camera zoomed into a ruined cityscape on Earth, where a new generation planted trees over shattered concrete, repaired homes with steel and hope, and built spaceships to escape the dying world. Humanity's destiny was no longer confined to one planet. The story then shifted to the first colony ships, humanity's tentative steps into the stars. The colonists chose worlds that other species avoided, harsh planets where storms raged like nuclear blasts, where gravity crushed bones, where alien diseases awaited the unwary. They thrived where others feared to tread. The galaxy's civilizations watched in disbelief. Deathworlders, they whispered, monsters who survive where no one else can. Yet, even as they expanded, humans did not seek to dominate their neighbors. They forged alliances, traded knowledge, and respected cultures, unless attacked first. Their influence spread like wildfire, not by force, but by resilience and relentless progress. Back in the present, Elira's narration concluded, "We are the children of a death world. We learned early that strength is not brute force. It is endurance. It is adaptation. And it is the courage to keep moving forward when the universe says no." The holographic images faded. The Galactic Concord's delegates shifted uneasily. Some admired humanity's tenacity. Others feared the implication that these Deathworlders were not just survivors, but masters of chaos itself. Suddenly, the chamber's atmosphere thickened. A sudden message flashed on the main screen, a direct transmission from the Erebos system's human colony. It showed a serene, thriving community days before the Concord's attack, then a violent shift. Plasma firestorm, explosions, screams. The delegates gasped again. The Deathworlders' legacy was not just history, it was a warning. In the human delegation's quarters, Elira watched the transmission with a steady gaze. Lieutenant Jarek Voss stood beside her, the weight of the past and present pressing down on both. "Do they understand?" Jarek asked quietly. "That we are more than what they fear." Elira turned to him, eyes fierce with determination. "They will, one way or another." Outside, the stars shone cold and indifferent, but humanity's fire burned brighter than ever, born of death, destined to command. The galaxy held its breath. Across trillions of kilometers, star systems waited, some with hope, many with dread. After the Concorde's devastating assault on the human colony in the Erebos system, everyone expected retaliation. The destruction was broadcast live on every major comm channel. The Deathworlders had been struck hard. Would they respond with fury? Would the fragile peace shatter into open war? But the humans remained silent. The space surrounding the Erebos system was eerily quiet. No fleets emerged from Earth or nearby colonies. No warships scrambled into battle formations. No threats, no calls for aid, no demands for ceasefire. Nothing but silence. Alien commanders exchanged uneasy glances. The elders whispered their theories in dimly lit war rooms. Some said humanity had been broken, that their spirit finally crushed beneath the Concorde's overwhelming force. Others feared something far more dangerous, that the silence was a trap. Admiral Takar, a veteran of 3 galactic wars and commander of the Zareth Dominion's fleet, paced his flagship's bridge. His many eyes flicked between the darkened viewscreen and tactical maps glowing with red alerts. Beside him, his XO, a sharp-minded tactician named Vela, broke the silence. "Sir, no transmissions from human space in over 72 hours. Their fleets remain docked. No signs of mobilization." Takar's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "They're not acting like a species that's been humiliated. Some suggest their silence is a sign of submission," Vela added, "but I doubt it." Takar nodded slowly. "It could be a waiting game. We must remain alert." Across the Concorde's capital, whispers spread faster than any starship. Rumors ignited debates. Had humanity's endurance finally met its match? Or was this the calm before a storm unlike any other? Meanwhile, in the human command center orbiting Earth, the atmosphere was tense but controlled. Captain Elira Sorn stood before a holographic map of the galaxy, her expression unreadable. Beside her, Lieutenant Jarek Voss reviewed incoming data streams. Jarek broke the silence. "The Concorde expects us to retaliate immediately. They think we'll respond with force." Elira's gaze remained fixed on the map. "They do not understand us. What are we waiting for?" Jarek asked. "Not waiting," Elira corrected. "Preparing." A soft chime alerted them to an incoming encrypted message. Elira opened it. The words blinked on the screen. "The galaxy will soon understand that Deathworlders do not conquer planets. They command galaxies." Her lips curled into a faint, knowing smile. Back on Erebos, the ruined colony lay silent. The scorched ground was still warm. Survivors huddled in underground shelters, whispers of hope and dread mingling in the air. Across the starry void, human rescue ships moved quietly, recovering the wounded with advanced medical pods, repairing damaged structures with nanobots, rebuilding what the Concorde had tried to erase. But no warships launched. No retaliatory strike followed. The galaxy's great fleets maintained uneasy patrols near human-controlled space. Mercenary bands speculated. Spies probed for secrets. Every vessel waited for a signal, any sign of humanity's next move. Then, at the edge of explored space, mysterious black ships appeared. They arrived silently, without warning. Their shapes defied every known ship design. Angular, black as void, and seemingly alive. They emitted no communication signals, no weapon blasts. Instead, they deployed fleets of smaller drones that quickly began establishing advanced FTL gateways and resource extraction stations on unclaimed worlds. Speculation ran wild. Were these warships? Colonizers? Something else? In Concord halls, panic blossomed. The elders demanded answers. Yet the humans still said nothing. Admiral Tkar's fleet was among the first to encounter the black ships. "Identify those vessels," he ordered, but his scanners returned no readable data. "Unknown technology," Villa reported. "No hostile actions, but they're expanding fast." Tkar frowned. "This is no retreat. This is something new." As the Black Fleet grew, star systems once considered remote or worthless began thriving under their influence. Colonies flourished, trade routes reopened, and entire alien species defected to the human side, drawn by promises of security and progress. The silence was no surrender. It was the stillness before the storm. Back on Earth's command deck, Elira's voice was steady as she addressed her team. "They expect rage. We'll give them something far worse. Control." Jarek's eyes widened. Control. Not through conquest or war, but through will, adaptation, and transformation. The galaxy doesn't understand what it means to command like a Deathworlder. The crew exchanged uneasy looks, but none doubted their captain's resolve. Outside, the stars gleamed cold and distant. The galaxy waited, holding its breath, and somewhere in the silence, humanity prepared to show the universe what it truly meant to survive and to rule. The galaxy was stunned when the black ships appeared. An enigma wrapped in shadows, unyielding and silent. Not warships, not diplomats, but something far stranger. They slipped through dead zones, regions of space long abandoned after centuries of war and decay, and emerged at the edges of known space. Their angular hulls absorbed starlight, reflecting nothing. No lights blinked. No sounds echoed. They moved like ghosts, swift and deliberate. First contact was unintentional. A remote mining station on the fringe of the Sidral Nebula detected an approaching vessel, a black triangle drifting with a purpose beyond comprehension. Communications were attempted, but the ships emitted only a faint pulse, almost like a heartbeat. It was not a greeting, nor a threat. Something else. Moments later, the black ship deployed smaller craft, sleek and precise. They set to work building structures that shimmered with advanced energy fields, faster than light jump gates, automated factories that could churn out fleets in days, not years. Across the galaxy, every major power scrambled to understand. Spies and analysts pieced together data. The Black Fleet was not merely a military force. It was a mobile civilization. Ships carrying cities, industries, research facilities, even agricultural ecosystems. Each vessel was a seed of expansion, capable of turning barren star systems into thriving worlds. The Concord Council was shaken. Ambassador Rolzera paced the chamber, her crystalline limbs clicking with frustration. This is no ordinary fleet. It is a force beyond any military doctrine. What are the humans doing? On a distant planet, a human emissary broadcast a message in every major galactic language. The transmission was calm, devoid of threat, but firm. "The galaxy is open now. You may join, or you may move." The message spread like wildfire, seeping into every corner of known space. On board the flagship Resolute, Captain Elira Sorn stood before a panoramic viewport. The Black Fleet stretched across the void, a vast armada of sleek ships quietly transforming space itself. Behind her, her officers moved with quiet efficiency, implementing plans that had been years in the making. Lieutenant Jarek Voss approached, holding a datavad. "The Black Fleet's construction units have activated terraforming pods on the Draxian outpost. Reports say the atmosphere is stabilizing and native wildlife is being nurtured, not eradicated." Elira nodded. "This is how we command, not by conquest or subjugation, but by becoming indispensable." Jarek frowned. "But what if the Concord refuses? What if they fight?" Elira's eyes glinted with fierce calm. "Then they will lose. Because this is not just a fleet. It is an offer and a warning." News arrived that hundreds of star systems, previously under the Concorde's control, had quietly switched allegiance, not through battle, but by choice, enticed by the human promise of advanced technology, medical breakthroughs, and economic prosperity. The Concorde's unity began to crumble. Factions within it started to question their leaders. Mercenary bands abandoned old loyalties to join the human cause. Refugees from wars and famines flocked to the Black Fleet's growing network. At the Concorde's Central Command, a crisis meeting was convened. The eldest members debated fiercely, some advocating immediate war, others urging diplomacy. Ambassador Olgera argued, "We face not an enemy, but a transformation we cannot stop." Meanwhile, across the Black Fleet's sprawling network, human scientists deployed distributed AI systems that linked minds and machines in ways no other species had achieved. These systems optimized everything, from resource management to starship coordination, with a level of precision that defied belief. Colonies once struggling with harsh environments flourished. Starports once clogged with refugees became hubs of innovation. The Black Fleet was not a conqueror, it was a catalyst for change. On a distant moon, a young alien scientist named Kel watched the human transmissions with growing awe and fear. His people had long suffered under Concorde rule, oppressed and marginalized. Kel's voice trembled as he spoke to his mentor. "They're not like us. They don't conquer with swords or guns. They command with something else, a will that reshapes everything." His mentor nodded slowly. "It is a power born of survival. From a death world, they bring not just strength, but a vision of what the galaxy can become." Back on the Resolute, Elira addressed her crew. "We do not seek enemies, but if they choose to oppose us, they must understand. This galaxy will not be ruled by fear or weakness. It will be commanded by those who endure and create." Her words echoed through the ship's halls as the Black Fleet continued its silent march, a wave of shadow and light, unstoppable, transforming the galaxy one system at a time. The Galactic Concorde was cracking. In the once unified council chambers, the air was thick with tension and betrayal. Delegates who had once sat shoulder to shoulder now eyed each other with suspicion and thinly veiled hostility. The Black Fleet's rise had exposed fractures that had long been simmering beneath the surface. Factions hungry for power, old grudges resurfacing, and a desperate struggle to find footing amid chaos. Ambassador Olzera paced, her crystalline limbs tapping sharply against the polished floor. "We cannot ignore them," she declared. "The Deathworlders have shattered our unity. They wield power not by conquest, but by command, and it is slipping through our fingers." Across the chamber, murmurs rippled. Some delegates whispered support. Others bristled. The council was at an impasse. Behind closed doors, political leaders whispered and schemed. Some saw humanity's rise as an opportunity, a chance to realign the balance of power by allying with the Deathworlders. Others swore vengeance, seeking to crush the Black Fleet before it consumed more systems. Among the dissenters was General Crothall, a war-hardened strategist from the Goran hegemony, whose armies had long upheld the Concorde's dominance through brutal campaigns. He slammed his fist on the table. "We have tolerated weakness for too long. The humans must be stopped before their influence corrupts everything we have built." His voice was met with cold stares. Yet beneath the surface, a coalition of like-minded leaders began to form. A coalition willing to risk open war to preserve the old order. On the Resolute, Captain Elira Sorn received a confidential message from an unexpected source, a faction leader within the Concorde's dissenters, known as High Chancellor Velzan. Velzan's message was simple but startling. Not all within the Concorde wished to see war. Meet at the neutral station Arkal for negotiations. Elira's eyes narrowed. Could enemies be turned allies? Or was this a trap? Her advisors were divided. Lieutenant Jarek Voss urged caution. "They seek to divide us. We must not show weakness." Elira shook her head. "Understanding their fears is part of commanding this galaxy. We will go, prepared, but open. The meeting on Arkall was tense and shadowed with suspicion. The station, a relic from an ancient war, hung silent in the void neutral ground where no weapon was permitted. Velzen emerged from the shadows, an imposing figure wrapped in elaborate robes of deep crimson. His eyes held the weariness of a leader burdened by impossible choices. "We face a crossroads," Velzen said. "Your Black Fleet reshapes the galaxy faster than we can respond. Some of us believe cooperation is the only way forward." Elira studied him carefully. "And those who refuse?" Velzen's gaze darkened. "They will force the galaxy into war." The negotiations that followed were fragile and delicate. Elira offered technology transfers, advanced medical systems, terraforming knowledge, AI coordination, to those willing to join the Black Fleet's vision of renewal. Velzen countered with demands for transparency and guarantees that no species would be crushed beneath the new order. He feared humanity's reputation as ruthless survivors. The talks ended without agreement, but also without conflict. A fragile peace, tenuous as a thread. Meanwhile, in the depths of the Concord's military command, General Crothall prepared his forces. Secretly, he rallied commanders loyal to the old regime, plotting a coalition of warships to challenge the Black Fleet's expansion. In whispered conversations, he called them the Last Stand, a desperate bid to hold the galaxy's past against the storm of change. Back on Earth, Elira convened her closest advisors. "We are not just fighting fleets," she said. "We are fighting fear. The fear of change, of survival itself." Jarek nodded grimly. "They will strike soon. Crothall is mobilizing." Elira's voice grew cold steel. "Then we must be ready to do more than survive. We must command." At the fringes of known space, the Black Fleet continued its steady advance. Colonies thrived, alliances shifted, and the galaxy's future hung in the balance. Some species chose the path of peace and progress. Others prepared for war. The silence shattered like glass. General Crothall's fleet erupted from hidden docks across the outer rim, a colossal armada forged in secret. Warships bristled with weapons and hungered for battle. For the first time in decades, the Galactic Concord launched a full-scale offensive, not against some fringe rebellion, but against the unstoppable Black Fleet. News of the assault rippled across star systems, sending shockwaves through every colony under human influence. The fragile peace was broken. On board the Resolute, Captain Elira Sorn stood beside Lieutenant Jarek Voss as warnings blared through the ship. The massive holographic display showed dozens of Concord warships, sleek, deadly, and charged for combat, closing in fast. "General Crothall has thrown down the gauntlet," Elira said quietly. "They want to fight." Jarek's jaw tightened. "And will answer." The Resolute led the Black Fleet's response. Dozens of shadow-black ships flared into action, their advanced systems humming as they aligned in formation. But this was no conventional battle. The Black Fleet did not seek destruction. It sought control. It unleashed swarms of drones to disable enemy systems with surgical precision, neutralizing weapons and communication arrays without firing a single shot. Crothall's forces found themselves crippled before they could strike, their warships disabled one by one. The Concord fleet, trained for head-on clashes, struggled against the Black Fleet's relentless, adaptive tactics. "Firing on my command," Crothall roared over comms, frustration mounting as weapons failed to respond. But the Black Fleet's AI, linked across vessels, anticipated each move, coordinating defense, repairing damage instantly, and deploying countermeasures faster than any human crew could follow. In the midst of the battle, Elira's voice cut through the chaos. "Focus on disabling, not destroying. Show them what it means to command." The Black Fleet sent out drones that boarded disabled ships, not to kill but to repair and convert, offering crews a choice: join or be left stranded. Several Concord commanders, seeing the futility of continued resistance, surrendered their ships. Some defected, their loyalty shifting as quickly as the tides. But Krathal was relentless. He ordered a desperate push toward the Resolute, aiming to decapitate the Black Fleet's command. Jarek spotted the assault. They're targeting us directly. Elira's eyes narrowed. Prepare for boarding. We'll show them what Deathworlders are made of. When the boarding pods struck, Deathworlder soldiers met them with brutal efficiency. Clad in armor designed to withstand the harshest environments, human troops moved like shadows through the corridors, adapting swiftly to the enemy's tactics. The battle was fierce, close, and chaotic. Krathal's elite troops were skilled, but they were unprepared for Deathworlder resilience. Every wound was met with defiance. Every retreat became a counterattack. On the Resolute's bridge, Elira coordinated the fight with cold precision. Hold your ground. We will not yield. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the battle sent ripples through other systems. Some colonies reinforced their defenses. Others watched anxiously, waiting to see who would emerge victorious. In the Concord Council chambers, ambassadors debated fervently. Some demanded an end to the fighting. Others called for total war. Back on the Resolute, the tide turned. Krathal's flagship was disabled, its systems commandeered by Black Fleet I. The general's voice crackled over comms, furious and desperate. You may have won this battle, but the war is not over. Elira's reply was calm and resolute. The war is over when we say it is. As the battle ended, the Concord fleet retreated, fractured and broken. The Black Fleet stood victorious, not through annihilation, but through mastery of survival and adaptation. But Elira knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy was changing. The Deathworlders were not conquerors. They were commanders, masters of survival, resilience, and transformation. And the galaxy would never be the same. The battlefield fell silent, but the war's echoes reverberated across the stars. The Concord fleet had been shattered at Krathal's last stand, a decisive defeat that rippled through every corner of the galaxy. But victory was only the first step. The Deathworlders' challenge was greater still, to build the lasting peace where chaos and fear had long reigned. On board the Resolute, Captain Elira Sorn surveyed the aftermath. Holographic projections displayed star systems flickering to life under human-led terraforming initiatives. Colony ships carried refugees and engineers, repairing worlds scarred by conflict and neglect. Lieutenant Jarek Voss approached, his voice cautious but hopeful. The Concord is fracturing. Some systems have declared autonomy. Others are asking to join us willingly. Elira nodded, a faint smile breaking her usual stoicism. They see what survival looks like, not just enduring, but thriving. This is how we command. Across the former Concord territories, the Black Fleet's influence spread rapidly. Unlike the old regime's heavy-handed rule, human-led governance focused on collaboration and adaptation. On the planet Velris Prime, a former mining colony, local leaders gathered with human advisors. Together, they established a council blending native customs with advanced technologies. The colony's economy flourished as abandoned mines became sites of renewable energy production and scientific research. Kale, the young alien scientist who had watched humanity's rise with a mix of fear and fascination, now stood at the forefront of these efforts. We are witnessing the birth of something new, he said in a broadcast. Not domination, but partnership. Yet not all welcomed this change. Fragments of the Concord's old guard retreated to the galaxy's darkest corners, plotting to reclaim lost power. Mercenaries, warlords, and fanatics formed shadow alliances, preying on fear and uncertainty. Elira knew this resistance was inevitable. We do not seek to erase the past, she told her command team. But we cannot let fear dictate the future. To counter the growing insurgency, the Black Fleet deployed peacekeeping forces, units trained not only in combat, but in diplomacy, cultural understanding, and crisis resolution. On the border world of Ardentis, a tense negotiation unfolded between a human peace envoy and a coalition of former Concord loyalists. Voices raised, accusations flared, But ultimately, the envoy's calm persistence forged a tentative truce. This approach was a radical departure from past conflicts. It was a demonstration of the Deathworlder philosophy, command through strength tempered by empathy. Back on Earth, Elira convened a council of leaders representing the newly allied systems. Their mission was daunting: to build a governing framework capable of managing diverse species, cultures, and interests. The council debated fiercely, balancing the need for unity with respect for autonomy. Elira emphasized resilience. Our strength lies not in forcing compliance, but in fostering adaptation. Every system, every species, must find its place in this new order. The Council voted to establish the Galactic Command Coalition, an alliance founded on shared goals of survival, prosperity, and peace. But beneath this hopeful vision, Elira remained vigilant. Reports from the fringe world spoke of shadowy factions amassing weapons, of whispers promising to ignite new wars. The Galaxy's scars ran deep, and healing would take time. In her private quarters, Elira stared out at the stars, the weight of command heavy on her shoulders. "Commanding a galaxy is more than winning battles," she murmured. "It's about shaping futures." The Black Fleet's drones continued to terraform barren worlds, restore ecosystems, and build infrastructure that connected distant colonies. Trade routes reopened, cultural exchanges blossomed, and education spread. The Deathworlders' influence was subtle but profound, a transformation born of endurance, intelligence, and a relentless will to survive. One evening, Kale sent a message to Elira's command. It was a simple phrase from his people's ancient tongue. "The roots of the tree run deep beneath the storm." Elira smiled. It was a reminder that their strength was not just in ships or weapons, but in the bonds they forged across the stars. The galaxy watched as a new order took root, one shaped not by conquest, but by command. The Deathworlders had shown the universe their true power, not the ability to conquer planets, but to command galaxies. The stars stretched endlessly before Captain Elira Sorn as she stood on the bridge of the Resolute. The Black Fleet had grown beyond a mere armada. It was a living, breathing entity, an interconnected web of systems, cultures, and hopes. Months had passed since the last stand. The scars of battle still marked many worlds, but the galaxy was beginning to heal. The Galactic Command Coalition flourished, an alliance built on trust, strength, and the shared will to survive and prosper. Elira reflected on how far they'd come. What began as survival on a brutal death world had become a vision that transcended species and systems. The Deathworlders hadn't merely conquered territory. They had reshaped the very nature of galactic power. But peace was never guaranteed. Intelligence reports buzzed quietly in the background. Shadow factions still lingered, embers of discord threatening to ignite. Yet, the coalition's response was different from any before, not crushing oppression, but inclusion and reform. A transmission arrived from Kale, the young alien scientist, and now an ambassador of the coalition. "Captain, a new research initiative on Velrus Prime shows promising results in cross-species bioengineering. It may accelerate ecosystem restoration in war-torn planets." Elira smiled. "Send our support. This is the future we command." Suddenly, alarms blared. A fleet of unidentified ships appeared on sensors, aggressive, heavily armed, and intent on confrontation. Elira's gaze sharpened. "Status." Lieutenant Jarek Voss replied, "Unknown origin. They're breaching our borders, weapons locked." The crew scrambled to battle stations, but Elira raised a hand. "Hold fire. Open a channel." The unknown fleet's captain answered, voice hard but cautious. "We are survivors of the outer darkness, refugees displaced by centuries of conflict. We seek safe harbor and alliance, not war." Elira's heart steadied. This was the test, the moment to prove whether the Deathworlder philosophy of command through resilience and empathy could hold. "Welcome," she said firmly. "We offer partnership. Together, we can build, not destroy." Back on the Resolute's bridge, the crew watched as the unknown ships lowered weapons and aligned with the Black Fleet's formation. The Galaxy's mosaic was growing richer, more complex, and more hopeful. Later, in the Galactic Command Coalition's new capital, Elira addressed the assembly. "We have faced the darkness of survival and emerged stronger. Our power is not in domination, but in unity and adaptability. The galaxy is vast, with countless challenges ahead, but we will meet them as one." The chamber erupted in applause, voices rising in a chorus of hope. After the speech, Elira retreated to a quiet observation deck. Kale joined her, his eyes reflecting the swirling cosmos. "You command not by conquering," Kale said softly, "but by inspiring, by showing that survival means transformation, and strength is in connection." Elira nodded. "The galaxy will remember the Deathworlders, not as conquerors, but as commanders who forged a future from the harshest of pasts." As the stars shimmered beyond the viewport, a new chapter began. A galaxy commanded by resilience, innovation, and a relentless will to survive. The Deathworlders had proven that true power was not in conquest, but in commanding the future itself. The end.